you can now see him there. There's Zach. We'll be with you for the next, 30, 45 minutes, somewhere in that range, talking about recruiting. Ole Miss, a recent spate of commitments over the last, 10 days or so. Don't hold me to days these days. It's been a busy summer, and I've lost complete track of time. But recently, a spate of commitments, and then Zach put out the Barry Big Board earlier today, so we'll discuss that as well. It's available at rebelgrove.com, which is part of the Rivals Network, where prices have not changed since the James Madison administration. So you can, even James Madison, James Monroe, Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. It doesn't matter who's in the White House, the price stays the same. No matter what. The price of milk goes up, the price of gas goes up, the price of cars goes up, not the price of a rebelgrove.com subscription. So you can subscribe, you can read all of Zach's commentary on the Barry Big Board, which is good. It provides a lot of context for the names that are on that board, and then you can participate in the always enlightening, never argumentative, never fiery, just always nice, always kind, always congenial conversation at rebelgrove.com. You can become part of that community for the low price of, if you subscribe for a year, it's less than $8.50 a month. $8.50. You can barely get 2 gallons of gas for $8.50, but you can get a monthly subscription, an annual subscription. That's your price per month at rebelgrove.com, and everyone there will treat you nicely. They'll say hello, check on you, and you'll feel like a part of a Brady Bunch kind of family where everyone loves one another.
It's like Cheers.
It is. It's a lot like Cheers. It's a lot like Cheers, but it's more like the Brady Bunch where, like when Alice and Sam broke up, everybody cared. They took care of Alice because she was really down in the dumps. And so the kids did the cooking and the cleaning, gave Alice some time to recover. And then they helped get them back together again. And that'll happen for you at rebelgrove.com. I also want to tell you about they'll ask for pics of your wife. It's all good at rebelgrove.com. The College Corner is your one-stop Rebel shop. 2 locations in the Jackson area in Ridgeland. The College Corner is next to Fleet Feet. In Flowood, it's next to Half Shell. If you don't live in Jackson, it's okay. You can visit the College Corner at collegecornerstore.com. Plus, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. So whether you are tailgating in Oxford or home gating with friends and family, the College Corner has you covered for game day. The largest selection of Rebel gear in central Mississippi. I'm coming to you from the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford is in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900, 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for Corey Clark, and Corey will give you a quote. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for, and then within 15 minutes in business hours, he's going to send you a quote right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You're going to get a quote that you can use moving forward, or you can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and let's hop into a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Zachary, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm down here in the new office. For those that are tuning in on the live stream, it probably looks like I'm in like a dungeon of some sort. But
I kind of like it. Here. No, I like it. I don't see the dog on the bed anymore.
Yeah. They're just down here on the floor.
Yeah, I like the background. It is kind of dungeony, but in a modern architecture sort of way.
That's right. Yeah, I gotta order a rug to help with the acoustics in here. Just gotta hang up some pictures, but I got the Open Championship on over here, keeping track with everyone on day 1 of the tournament. But it's good. So yeah, we could jump right into it.
So let's talk about all the commitments that happened over the weekend, because you and I both it kind of felt like on Sunday we were like tag team wrestling partners. We were pumping out recruiting content. You had analysis ready. I got both guys on the phone. It seems like somebody committed on, was it 2 guys on Saturday, and then there were some people before that, and it seems like stuff happened when I was on vacation and with Carson. There was like stuff breaking pretty much routinely.
Yeah, everyone waited until we were both on vacation.
That's how that works.
And then, Jacarius Clayton was on Friday. I was down on 30A. I was go to dinner at Old Florida Fish House, which, no free ads, but if you haven't been there, it's fantastic. And, just kind of had one of those nights where I was like, I'm going to put my phone in my wife's purse, and I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to be present at dinner and interact with people. And we hopped in the car to go back to the house, and my phone's just exploded. And so, which it wasn't unexpected. Everybody knew that Clayton was committing to Ole Miss. But that was Friday, then Preston Cushman on Saturday. And then on Sunday, when I was driving back, going through the talking about being present, the ever-present traffic around Birmingham on the way back to Nashville. Mm-hmm. We had Jeremiah Dillon and then Timmy Gagafian. I hope I'm saying that last name right. I think I got it.
I think that's right. It's definitely Timmy, because I talked to Timmy.
Definitely Timmy. So they both committed on Sunday. But yeah, ever since, Larry Simmons and Marquez Dorsch were the only two guys in the class for most of the year. And then the end of June hits, you had Reginald Hughes, the linebacker out of Northeast Community College, Taylor Groves the day after him, and then Kyron Heath, the tight end out of Texas, a couple of days later. And then once July hit, you had Xavier Harris, then Clayton, Cushman, Dillon, and then Gagafian. So
it's almost it's almost like when we kept telling people that, hey, these kids haven't been able to go anywhere for a year and a half. They're going to take a few visits. They're going to look around, and then things will happen from there. Chill. Mm-hmm. It's almost like we were telling the truth.
Hey, it's what you pay for, Rebel Grove. Just tell everybody to calm down. But yeah,
they didn't get to go anywhere, and so it made sense that they're like, I've waited this long. You're going to open it up now on June the 1st. I think I'm going to go visit a few schools. I'm going to talk to some of these people in person that I've been talking to on my FaceTime for the last year. I'm going to do some of that. I'm going to get a feel for some of these places, and I kind of think I know what I'm going to do, but I would like to sort of see it first, which makes some sense. And then that's what happened. That's it.
Yeah, and I think something that Ole Miss fans can look at and feel good about is that for the most part, the newest commits are all new staff member targets. Mm-hmm. You had Kyron Heath, who was a camp offer, John David Baker, the new tight ends coach. Then you had Xavier Harris and Jacarius Clayton, both defensive linemen, Randall Joyner, really doing a great job on the recruiting trail right now. He's got a ton of targets that are out there on the big board that you can see at rebelgrove.com that he's going after. And then Preston Cushman and Timmy, both Jake Thornton. Every recruit that I talk to that is an offensive lineman raves about him as a recruiter. They may not get every single target, but every single one that I've talked to, and I'm sure that Timmy mentioned it to you, they really like him. He's young. He's got a lot of energy, and that's the same with Joyner and the rest of the staff. They're all young, and I think that kids gravitate towards that type of energy on a staff.
I'll tell you this. I told you this. I've done this for a long time, longer than I'd care to admit, and I've talked to a lot of kids who just committed to wherever. Mm-hmm. And frequently the conversations are so predictable that I could almost write the story without talking to the kid. I would never do that because that would be unethical as hell. But
disingenuous, Neal.
It would be disingenuous, but I could predict quotes and get really close. Typically, Timmy, say his name again, Gagafian.
Gagafian,
yeah, was easily one of the best 5 high school kid quotes that I've ever encountered. The kid was fantastic. So I hit him up and through Twitter DMs, and he's like, yeah, we can talk. That'd be great. And I said, give me a number. And he goes, well, I don't have one. I don't have my phone. And I thought, well, here we go. We're never going to talk. And he goes, but I got my coaches. Let me FaceTime audio you. And I'm like, okay. So I threw my number, and then boom, there's the call. And I answered, and he goes, hey, it's Timmy. And I was like, hey, man, what's up? And we start talking, and Timmy's great. He's a great quote. I'm like, I could have kept him another 15 minutes, but I had stuff to do, and there was no point. But yeah, you're right. And he, big kid, energetic kid. I said, so what are you, what's your weight? He goes, I'm like 290 right now. I want to get to 310. And I said, well, the season starts in a month. How are you going to get to 310? He goes, oh, that won't be a problem. And I'm like, well, I mean, it wouldn't be a problem for me to gain 20 pounds either, but yeah. And so he's like, yeah, I want to, and then he goes, and I always love this. This is the fun part, but it also is the reality. He says, I want to get to 320 and stay there for when I go to the league. And by the way, when he says the league, he doesn't mean the SEC. He means the NFL, that league.
Okay. I meant the NBA. Hashtag this league.
So when he goes to the league, and that's that confidence that you want, but he's he's. And so when you recruit kids like that, you have to understand that you're recruiting kids that hey, I'm going to play in the league, and if you tell them, hey, look, slow your roll in the league, you're not getting the kid. So it's pretty interesting. But he's a big kid, and he's already kind of becoming a recruiter for them. And the Cushman kid is a big kid. The one thing that sticks out to me, and I don't follow the recruiting as closely as Zach, in large part because Zach follows it closely. The one thing that does stick out, Zach, and tell me whether I'm wrong, and I'm basing this on a fairly small sample size, but it certainly appears that they are they're paying attention to the height, weight, speed ratios at certain positions. That it's the one thing that there's no doubt Lane Kiffin figured out at Alabama. No question. And I think if you ask Lane this, he'd tell you. At Alabama, and there's an exception here and there on the Crimson Tide roster, but if you look at it, it's very clear that they have a sliding scale, if you will. To be a successful edge rusher in the SEC, you have to be X tall, X fast, X weight across the board, and do that at every position. And they're pretty religious in their adherence to that standard. And I think you see that starting to happen at Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I was going to mention, one of my favorite bits on the Oxford Exxon podcast is the "We're all built the same."
Yes.
And I was going to ask you, do you remember when you were 6'7", 290 in high school?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you're right. I mean, you look at the two defensive linemen that they committed, Xavier Harris and Jacarius Clayton, 6'6", 338, 6'6", 275. That's if you're drawing up a defensive lineman in the SEC Power 5 football, that's what they look like. Of course, you have your anomalies that happen every so often. Isaac Gross was just a freak athlete who played at like 245, 250, but was just damn good. You got guys like Mike Hilton that just kind of they just have that it. But you can't always recruit those guys. You got to get the 6'7", 290 Timmies. You got to get the 6'5", 281 Preston Cushmans. Kyron Heath, I think, even though he's just a 5.5 3-star, he was a camp offer. I think that's a big thing you got to pay attention to. He came in person, worked out. They were like, okay, offer. And then he committed shortly after. He's 6'4", 234. He can do a lot of things. He runs routes like a receiver, but he's pretty nasty in run blocking. He can do a lot of things in space that they did a year ago with Kenny Yeboah, and a couple of years ago, Ole Miss fans know Evan Ingram was kind of that hybrid type guy. That's what you need. I mean, Taylor Groves, a guy that was a receiver, they're recruiting him as a defensive back. He's 6'3", 185. You can do a lot with that. He's long. He can play safety. He can play corner. I've mentioned the Miles Battle comparison. I think that's something that they probably mentioned to him. Like, hey, this guy was a receiver. Now he's starting for us in the SEC because he's long and athletic. He can, go get the football. I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to build not just – we talk about it all the time. Not just depth, they're building quality depth. It's guys that can go on the field and play, and not just get out there and run around, but guys that can contribute immediately.
Yeah. This is where the one-time transfer portal, the one-time no penalty transfer portal kicks in. You're going to see more coaches say, boy, we're going to be really careful about taking too many projects. Now, an offensive lineman, sometimes you have to take a couple of projects. It's going to take a year or two to get those guys into maybe into SEC shape, into SEC strength, whatnot. But they're going to be really reluctant with DBs, receivers, that kind of thing on hey, we project this guy as, when they're going to think to themselves, why would we do that? We can wait and we can fill voids with the guy that just tore up the MAC or tore up the Sun Belt or whatever. So that's where that gets interesting. So, yeah, with skill guys, they brought them to camp. It's a great point that you make. They brought guys to camp. They put them through specific workouts where they could look at what they wanted to see. Then they could put them on a laser. They know what they run. They know exactly how big they are. They weighed them themselves. They measured them themselves. They got arm length and stuff themselves. You can do that in camp. That's stuff that you couldn't do a year ago in the COVID thing. I mean, you took more stabs. It's recruiting, which has always been pretty cutthroat. I mean, more cutthroat now than it was ever before, because you're going to have far more information, and the ability to go recruit other people's players is going to kick in as well. All right, we're going to switch to talk about your big board in a minute, because today's the 15th, 2 weeks from tomorrow. They're calling it the cookout. I don't know whether it's actually a cookout or not. It doesn't matter, but that's what they're calling it. It's essentially a really big recruiting day. We'll talk about some of the guys who are going to be there. We're also going to talk about Zach's big board, which again is up at rebelgrove.com. But before we do that, I want to tell you about some of the people that make this podcast possible. We're brought to you by Daniel Barfield, Barfield Wealth Management. Founded in 2000, Daniel Barfield's been serving individuals and businesses in the Oxford and North Mississippi area for more than 20 years. Daniel carries both CFP and CPA designations. He's affiliated with the Advisors Resource Council, a registered investment advisory firm with offices in Oxford, New Orleans, Dallas, and the surrounding area. He and his staff offer comprehensive financial planning, including investment management, estate and tax planning, insurance planning, and business retirement plans. You can reach him at 662-236-6454 or at barfieldwealthmanagement.com to learn how he can help you. We're also brought to you by Billy's Small Batch Bacon. My old pal William Stitt has mastered, and I do mean mastered, the art of bacon. Billy has spent more than 3 decades in the restaurant and hospitality business. Bacon, though, is his passion. He uses bacon selected from the finest hogs, hand-turned every 2 hours in small batches, rubbed with nitrate-free pink curing salt and brown sugar molasses. It is absolutely fantastic. You can try it at his restaurant and grocery in Fairhope, Alabama. It's the Old 27 Grill, or you can get it online, billysbacon.com. That's BILLES bacon.com. And try it today. Order 5 pounds or more. Use the promo code RebelGrove at checkout, and you'll get a Billy's Bacon hat as well. We are also brought to you by, Muddy Water Camo, muddywateroutdoors.com. We'll be bringing you some more information from Muddy Waters about some of their fall stuff, but they have a lot of the hot weather gear out there right now for fishing and that kind of thing. That's out there right now. Won't be long till you're going to be in need of the heated jackets and other things for getting out for duck hunting and that kind of thing, late fall, early winter. So go check them out, muddywateroutdoors.com. It's not too early to start thinking about some of those items that are there. The Tri-Zone heated jacket or vest. Those are absolutely fantastic. You'll love them once the winter rolls around, so you can start thinking about those now. And we're brought to you by Joey Erickson at Herring Gear Chevrolet. Let Joey help you find the vehicle you're looking for at a price you can afford. You can choose from a full selection of new Chevy vehicles or get a great deal on numerous brands of reliable pre-owned vehicles as well. So give Joey a call or a text on his cell, 662-571-2367. Tell him what you're looking for, or stop by 1685 High Street in Jackson to test drive that new or used vehicle you've been wanting. Make sure you tell him that you heard about this on the Oxford Exxon podcast or on this podcast, the Soft Verbal podcast, and you'll get a $50 gas card with your purchase. Where do you want to start on the hot board, Zach?
Well, I actually fully expected somebody to ask where Arch is, but this is 2022, it's not 2023. We can just start at the top. The big name that
Where is
leads
Arch?
the way.
No, I'm kidding. Just a joke.
Yeah, the one that leads the way here, Luther Burden, wide receiver out of East St. Louis. I mentioned in there that Lane Kiffin is personally recruiting him. He did make it in town for an unofficial visit, and this is just kind of one of those, hey, we're going to, I basically said it, stay in it as long as you can. Oklahoma obviously has a ton to offer. They have a pretty solid wide receiver lineage there of their own. But he made his way to campus. Unofficially visiting is big because for those that aren't privy to how, what's the difference between unofficial and official, unofficially you pay your way. You get there on your own. And still, committed to Oklahoma last year in October. So he's been a long time Sooner commit, but getting him down in Oxford was huge. And a lot of these guys that I kind of alluded to in the big board is, and I mentioned it in the intro, is Ole Miss, needs to play some games. They have some success on the field that's just going to do even more for the momentum that they've already created. They jumped nearly 40 spots in the team rankings in the month of July. Working down the list here, I still think Kamari Rogers is still in play. I think a lot of people were shocked that he committed to Miami that quickly. Most of the national rivals analysts that I spoke with agreed with me and thought that Ole Miss was kind of in the lead and they were kind of set up for him to eventually commit. But, all credit to Travaris Robinson, the DB coach at Miami. He's done a nice job recruiting him. And Miami's just kind of that hot name right now. They're doing extremely well. They are, let's see, I think they're in the top 10, but look, Manny Diaz has got some momentum. They had a pretty good year last year, and they're recruiting well. Quincy Wiggins is a guy that's undecided. He's probably going to be a signing day guy. He's from Baton Rouge, so LSU is obviously involved, but he's got a ton of suitors. Came to Oxford. Randall Joyner made a big impression on him. Finally getting to meet him in person. No more Zooms, no more FaceTimes, no more text. It was in person. If he makes a return trip for an official visit, I think that could go a long way in trying to secure him. And he's probably one of those big-time Rivals 100 guys that wants to see what the product on the field looks like. Can Ole Miss do it again? They had a good year last year, but can they get to that next tier in the SEC? I'll throw it to you here about Jaheim Otis because I think you've got some sourcing there as well. Another guy that kind of out of nowhere committed to Alabama earlier this year in April. Alabama is going to get whoever they want, whenever they want. And I still think that Randall Joyner, Marquise Watson, Chris Partridge, and I think Terrell Buckley is involved here as well, being familiar with that area of the state. I still think Ole Miss has got a shot. I still think they're in it. I don't think this recruitment is anywhere close to being done.
No, I agree with that completely. Look, Alabama does this a little bit, and it works for them. This is going to come across as a criticism, and I don't mean it as one. They know what they're doing, obviously. It's kind of worked over the last 12 years or so. But they tell guys like him early in the process, hey, we love you and we want you, but if you're going to come here, you need to go ahead and reserve your spot. Because we're going to keep recruiting above you. You're not make or break for us. We're not going to put everything on hold for you over the course of the year. We're going to go sign the other you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that works. Wouldn't that work with you? You're a high school kid, and I know he's a big deal, and Jaheim's been a big deal for a while, but he's not Nick Saban big deal. And so you're in the room with Nick Saban and all these guys, and they tell you that, and you pull the trigger on it. And then for a little while, you're pretty set. And I think there are some family members of his that are very big Alabama fans and all of that stuff. And make no mistake, I'm not saying Alabama's not going to get him because I think if you're betting today, you should absolutely bet on Alabama. But if you told me that Ole Miss had a good season, that they looked at more improved on defense, and that he came over for a couple of games and liked the vibe and bought into the being a big name on campus, which he absolutely would be, and began to kind of get conflicted in his mind and ended up at Ole Miss, I'd buy it completely. I agree with what you said a minute ago. This is a big – and people hear this and they think it means, okay, it means you got to win 9 or 10 games. And look, that'd be nice for Ole Miss, but it's not that. It's a feeling that you've got to produce. And I don't know how to describe it other than I can remember I'll keep it on Ole Miss terms, but I can remember there was a point at Auburn when I was covering Tommy Tuberville and those guys very early in Tuberville's tenure at Auburn where you could feel recruiting momentum around their program, even though they weren't winning yet. They were winning, but they weren't winning big. Mm-hmm. Yet they started landing the Carnell Williams, Ronnie Brown kind of people. Mm-hmm. You could sense Jason Campbell. You could tell, here they go. This program is upward on an upward path, pretty steep. And you could in 2012 at Ole Miss, I think what Ole Miss go 7-6 by the time it was over when they won the Birmingham Bowl or the Compass Bowl or whatever it was called at the time. They beat Pittsburgh at Legion Field, but they went 6-6 in the regular season. They weren't. I think 3-5. They were 3-5 in the SEC, if I'm correct. I mean, they weren't just blowing the world up, in the league. Yet there was a sense around that program that was absolutely palpable that they were on a path, no question about it. You could sense it. And this is year 2, but it's year 1 with him being able to bring recruits there and the stands and the stuff and the Grove and all that. So I think what's critical for Ole Miss this year is that they're able to produce a feeling that, oh boy, they're making a move. They're coming. Mm-hmm. They're closing the gap. Their time's coming. And if I were there, like in Jaheim Otis's case and some of the other guys you've mentioned, if I were there, they would have won that game today. Or if I were there, they wouldn't. That play that beat them, they wouldn't have made that play. I'll never forget Robert Kimdichie saying after, I think Ole Miss had lost to Texas A&M, one of the Johnny Manziel games, and Denzel was in the locker room sobbing, and Robert told some people that was the turning point. That was the day that he really decided, no, I'm coming here. I'm going to Ole Miss because had I been on that field, Manziel wouldn't have had time to make that play. They'd have won, and my brother would be celebrating right now instead of. And so it's that kind of thing. But look, winning's important. I mean, look, they can't go roll a 5-7 and say, hey, we got lots of momentum. No, you got to go win games. But if you told me that Ole Miss went 8-4 or 7-5 even and came out of it with recruiting momentum, I'd still completely buy it. Does that make sense? I know I'm rambling on, but people have a tendency to hear, oh, this is a critical year. And then when they lose a game, go, oh, my God, that's going to cost these players. And that's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, you told me, now show me type deal.
Yeah.
And look, I'll say this, talking about Otis, and I mentioned Quincy Wiggins. We talk all the time about quarterbacks having coattails, and it's a ripple effect offensively for, offensive linemen, receivers, running backs. Defensively, it's the same thing. In Otis's case, he might take a look at Ole Miss's commitment list right now. Okay, I see Xavier Harris. I see Jacarius Clayton. 2 big-time defensive linemen that I could go line up next to. That's only going to help him. It's not like, hey, man, like we need you to anchor this defensive line, and then we'll just try to piece some guys around you to help. No, I mean, these are 2 bona fide 4-stars that you'll be next to. And then that ripple effect goes to the next level to linebackers. Okay, they got some dudes up front, so I'm not going to be shielding 1 and 2 blockers while I'm trying to make tackles. I'm going to be able to run free because we got these big guys in front of me that are going to, take on double teams and sometimes triple teams. So that's kind of what you're going for here is, and that's kind of, I think it's the point of doing like this big cookout they're doing. They're going to try to get all these highly rated guys around each other. It's what everybody does. Michigan had a big thing last year. Ohio State did a big thing. They get all these guys together, and you just get them all talking like, hey, man, what if we all came here together? Like, think about what we could do. I mean, that's the point of doing these things. And, you mentioned, Alabama knows exactly what they're doing with how, hey, you better get in now or your spot's going to be taken because we're going to recruit above you no matter what. So, and you mentioned Nick Saban and Alabama know what they're doing. I'll tell you about a couple other people that know what they're doing. Podcast is brought to you by Lamar Yard, the now open indoor-outdoor restaurant, bar, and entertainment space in Oxford on South Lamar. 10,000 square feet of indoor space, 3/4 of an acre of outdoor space. You got parking on site. It's pet-friendly. A full stage, indoor-outdoor projectors, 3 bars, and a children's playground. I've talked to several recruits that have been there. They say the food is great. They love the atmosphere. The weather is fantastic right now. It's just the quintessential summer hangout spot for those long nights where, sun doesn't go down until 7:30, 8 o'clock. Go there, try their open fire barbecue, their wings, everything there. Check more out at lamaryard.com. Also brought to you by Kelly English Restaurant Group, the Memphis restaurateur and renowned chef. They now offer nationwide shipping. And they're still doing virtual cooking classes. Cooking with Kelly, you can use promo code SoftVerbal21 and get half off your first month of Cooking with Kelly. That's SoftVerbal, all caps, 21 for half off your first month of cooking. And then if you want to check out their nationwide shipping, it's at irisetc.com. Podcast also brought to you by Cherokee Valley Golf Course in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Go over there, go see Cody Allen and the rest of the team. Take on the challenge of their wide, plush Zoysia fairways and their large championship Bermuda greens. They've got 2 putting greens, driving range, and a chipping green to tighten up your game for any of these summer scrambles that you're playing in. Book a tee time at olivebranchgolf.com or give them a call at 662-893-4444. Also brought to you by Protection Unlimited, Mid-South's leader in commercial and residential alarm security. Wayne Lowry and his team have been serving the greater Memphis and North Mississippi area for 40-plus years, and they'd love to get your business and or family protected today. Cutting-edge security for your home or business, video surveillance options, and monitoring 24/7, 365. You can reach them via phone at 901-754-6510. All right, as we kind of move down the board here, couple running back targets here that I think Ole Miss is pretty much honed in on for what they want at that position. George Pettaway, the running back out of Virginia. I mentioned it here. It's just kind of one of those wait and see. Tons of Power 5 programs are after him, but Kevin Smith has really honed his search in on him. If they get him in town for the cookout at the end of the month, I think that's going to go a long way. And then right next to him, I think probably 1A, 1B. I don't know what order they're in. They're probably both 1A. Le'Veon Moss, the Alabama commit out of Baton Rouge, came in town, unofficially visited with his mother and his brother. Really liked Kevin Smith. They really liked the feel of Oxford. I think that's something that resonates too with these recruits is they get to not only come to Oxford, but they get the tour. They get to see the town. I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of recruits that I've talked to in this cycle really like how everything transitions on campus where you've got your weight room, your locker room, everything is right next to the practice field and you're right next to the stadium. I've heard that more and more where they like that setup. And, there's been a lot of grumbling and, a lot of jokes about the IPF being so behind the times. They have, announced they're doing some additions, they're doing some upgrades. But again, I think that's big, and Le'Veon Moss and his mother mentioned that. So they liked how close everything was. You can get to campus, you can get to the academic center. It's all right there around the football facility, and that's something that recruits have mentioned. I think Ole Miss is in it for Le'Veon Moss. I think it's going to be Alabama or Ole Miss. LSU is always going to linger because he's from Baton Rouge, but I honestly think he's either going to stick with Bama or Kevin Smith and Ole Miss could possibly pull off a shocker and get him. They love his game and love what he does on the football field. A couple other early commit guys here. Travion Williams, the defensive end out of Crystal Springs, Mississippi. Another guy that kind of threw everybody off when he committed to Florida State while he was on his official visit there. I don't think this is over whatsoever.
I'll go further. I don't think that's going to stick.
I don't either. I don't think he's going to Florida State. It'll be Ole Miss or Mississippi State, in my opinion.
That's what I think too. I'm actually kind of confident on that one.
Yeah. In this series of You Gotta Love Recruiting, Jared Willis committed to Georgia Tech, but then still said he's going to take an official visit to Ole Miss. Gotta love it. It's from Lee County. It's a familiar high school for this staff, familiar high school for this roster. It's where Otis Reese went. It's where Mark Robinson went. They love him. I think that Chris Partridge is going to do everything in his power to get him into this in this signee class. I fully expect him to take an official visit to Ole Miss, and I would probably go as far to say that I don't think the Georgia Tech commit sticks either.
What about quarterbacks? I know there's going to be a lot of attention about Arch Manning on the 30th coming up. Like you mentioned, all jokes aside, Arch still has half of his high school career left, so there's still some time. But they do want to add a quarterback in this 2022 class, and that won't be Arch Manning because he's not signing with anybody in the 2022 class. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, next on the list here is Justin Martin, quarterback out of Inglewood, California. I think that's their guy. I think that it's going to be Justin Martin, or they might dabble in the transfer portal. And look, maybe they don't. I have no idea. I haven't talked to Lane or Jeff Levy. There's always a chance that, hey, look, they get in fall camp and they really like what they see out of Luke Altmaier or Kincaid Dent. People kind of forget that Altmaier, is, on campus.
Yeah, I think let's just say that in a scenario that Luke Altmaier and Kincaid Dent are just phenomenal all season long, you still want to add a quarterback every year. Mm-hmm. That's just what good programs do. You don't get in that boat where suddenly you look up at the single most important position on the field and you don't have a player every year. They're going to add a quarterback to this class. I mean, I can't imagine, because Lane Kiffin at Alabama did that every year. Alabama always adds a quarterback. Yeah, you're going to lose quarterbacks in the portal. Guys are going to leave. Whatever. I get it. That's part of the deal now. But you still want to get them into your place. You want to have a stable of people at that position. So I mean, and that's in a scenario where Dent and Altmaier look phenomenal. I mean, I think it's possible that let's say they don't look phenomenal. That you have to get into the transfer portal with the quarterback this year. But even then, I still think you're wanting to bring in a high school guy every year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you want to add guys at every position every single cycle. Quarterback is no exception. I mean, you talk about Kiffin doing it at Bama. I mean, sometimes they'd bring in more than one, and it was just kind of all right, we're going to figure out who wants to stay and who's going to transfer. This is kind of one of those where Justin Martin, who's committed to Cal, he's been committed to Cal since January, came in town for an unofficial visit, hung out with Matt Corral a ton. They talked a lot about being a California kid coming to Oxford. He was one of the guys. Him and his father went to Lamar Yard, and they talked about how awesome it was, and they loved the town, they loved the people. He talked so much about how everybody was just so great, everybody was so nice. But it's one of those where he's committed to Cal, and you don't want to push too hard for a flip because you don't want to rub a kid the wrong way or think that you're trying to force his hand. But I think he's their number one target right now. I don't really think there's anybody else close to him in terms of who they're going for at that position. But again, if it gets to that point where we're starting to get into September, October, and he seems to be pretty set and going to Berkeley, then they'll start to reach out to other targets or maybe look to the portal.
Lane's been pretty consistent about this. They don't press for early commitments. They let commitments come when they come. Because if you press for them, and you see this with some of these schools that we've referred to some guys that committed under pressure, and they're going to decommit. They're going to go other places. When you press for commitments and they don't sort of come somewhat organically, especially early in the process, you're creating a scenario where you lose guys. Late in the year, like you get to late November, early December, and it's early signing periods 3 weeks away, you can start pressuring a little bit then because you can say, hey, look, you're the guy we want, but if you're not coming, we got to go get this guy because we like him too. We're not taking both of you. Kind of need an answer here in the next 48 hours. And that's where the pressure comes in, because if that kid still can't pull the trigger, well, now you got to start at least thinking to yourself, hey, he's not coming. He just doesn't want to tell us no. he's wanting us to break up with him, but he's not coming. At the end of the day, he's not going to say yes. So we got to move on. You can't really, like to your point, you can't really do that in June. Not particularly effectively. You can at Alabama to a degree, but they'll lose a couple of guys. They'll have a couple of guys that kind of move on because that's how that works. But yeah, Lane's always said that they're not worried about kids committing elsewhere, that they're going to flip guys. And I mean, I guess it was last season they went crazy with the flip emojis and stuff, the GIFs or whatnot. And I'm sure they'll do that again this time as well. But there's a certain pattern to some of the recruiting stuff that you see, and you can already see some of it kind of unfolding.
Working down the list here, we're not going to hit every single name because you can go on rebelgrove.com and see the full list, but I wanted to get to a couple 4-stars here that I think Ole Miss is in a really good spot for or leads for. We've got a couple defensive guys and then an offensive lineman here. Abdul Carter out of LaSalle High School in Philadelphia. I think Ole Miss is in a really good spot there with him. Chris Partridge and Marquise Watson are both recruiting him. Been to campus already. I think that they're pushing for him to come for this cookout at the end of the month, and then if not, getting him in for an official visit. Michigan and Maryland are both involved here, but I think just that Northeast connection that Chris Partridge and Marquise Watson have, I think a lot of high school coaches trust them, and I think a lot of prospects are really starting to get the sense that, okay, we can, we know these guys. They're from our neighborhood. They're from our state. They're from our area. We can trust that we're going to go far from home, but we're going to feel comfortable while we're there. I think Ole Miss is in a really good spot for Abdul Carter. I think the staff, he's probably up there at the top of their board for guys that they want. 6'3", 230, outside linebacker, could probably move inside just because of the size and the length. And then going back down to defensive line, Horace Lockett, I think Ole Miss is in a really good spot here. Kind of hinted at, making a decision sometime soon. I don't have a specific date. But, I mean, this is huge. It's a guy from Atlanta that has a Georgia offer, and Ole Miss is sitting in a good spot. Was a high school teammate of DeMarco Williams, a 2021 signee, so they have a connection there. And Chris Partridge, he's got the connections up in the Northeast, but he recruits Georgia just about as good as anybody. I think that they're in a really good spot for him. And then, an in-state guy that I think a lot of people thought Mississippi State had really, kind of taken the lead and, was kind of running away with it. But Bryson Hurst, the big offensive lineman out of Gaucher, and you want to talk about, we're all built the same here. 6'6", 320. He tweeted a picture of, he was literally holding up two of his teammates in a photo shoot. It just humongous kid. I think Ole Miss has surged ahead. He met Jake Thornton in person when he came to Oxford, and I think that they have taken the lead. I feel comfortable saying that they've taken the lead now over Mississippi State. He's kind of hinted at doing some kind of announcement in August. I think Ole Miss is in a good spot for him. If you want to talk about being in a good spot, if you need to be in a good spot, financially, look no further than Bluff City Advisory Group, another proud sponsor of the Soft Verbal. Memphis's leading team of finance professionals who can provide advanced assistance with financial planning, pension and qualified plan support, and business and estate planning strategies. Former Ole Miss Rebel and founding partner Ben Still, along with his elite-level customer service team, are going to make it their goal to help you with the ongoing demands of your financial needs. You can find out more about Bluff City Advisory Group at bluffcityadvisory.com. If you're wanting to be in a good spot in the real estate market, the Barry Home Team has you covered. Whether you're talking escrow, special stipulations, waive the right to appraise, pre-approval versus pre-qualification, all of those big-time buzzwords and things that you may have no idea what they mean, Rick and Stacy Berry can get you on the right path and get you ready if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. Call them at 901-481-6420 or 901-461-6421 or check them out at theberryhometeam.com. After you do that, you can give a call to Saddle Creek Title, the Mid-South's leader in client-focused, innovative closing solutions. Neal Hanna and his team, They're more than just a real estate closing firm. They're dedicated to going the distance to ensure the ease and growth of your real estate business. Check them out at saddlecreektitle.com or call them at 901-753-1600. Name that I mentioned the other day on the board that I think is starting to kind of narrow his recruiting down a little bit. Antonio Williams, the wide receiver out of South Carolina. I think it's going to be the Gamecocks or the Rebels here. His stepfather is Murphy Holloway, obviously played basketball at Ole Miss. His mother is from Oxford. So they're very familiar with Oxford and the SEC and everything that Ole Miss has to offer. Shane Beamer and that new staff up in Columbia have done a nice job. They're really working him hard. I think he's going to have a tough decision. Is he going to want to stay in state and play for the Gamecocks, or is he going to want to maybe go down to Oxford and kind of follow in his stepfather's footsteps? I mentioned in the post that Clemson's always lurking. They're an elite program. They haven't offered yet because they are as selective as it gets in recruiting. But if they were to extend an offer, I think that would change some things. I'll say this. This was interesting, and I put it in the post, and I don't know if you saw it. Quinshawn Judkins, the running back out of Alabama, he kind of, I would say, flew under the radar a little bit and came to Oxford again for an unofficial visit. And he not only got to meet the entire staff, but I did see that I was told that he also met with Keith Carter, which I thought was kind of, that was pretty unique. You don't hear many athletic directors talking with prospects, but you also don't really know about prospects talking with athletic directors. But I think that shows you kind of where he has Ole Miss and his pecking order. I think Auburn's a team to watch here because he's from Alabama, and then he really likes Notre Dame as well. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton on the big board. You can pretty much get a feel for a lot of these prospects. Couple Florida guys that, as I mentioned in the post, they don't talk much, but the staff, Kevin Smith is familiar with Florida, obviously, from playing at UCF and coaching down there at FAU. The defensive tackle, Daniel Lyons. You've got a defensive tackle in Jordan Phillips. And then a defensive end towards the middle of the list here, Dante Anderson, kind of a weak side defensive end, kind of stand-up linebacker that they're going after. Probably going to have to battle with, a lot of hurricane talk on this big board. Miami is recruiting at a high level, and then obviously Dan Mullen and the Gators are going to be involved with anybody from Florida that can play. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like we said, a lot of wait and see. A lot of prospects not only want to get on campus and meet people in person, but they want to see what the product on the field looks like.
And they want to take official visits, and they'll get to take those over the course of the season. And then, like you mentioned, late November, early December, we'll get that 2-3 weeks of kind of controlled chaos right before the early signing period. So there's going to be a lot of this that continues unresolved until mid-December, frankly. So a lot of ebbs and flows. We've got about 1 minute left because you got to get out. People will lose their minds if we don't broach the topic. Arch Manning coming on July the 30th. At least that's the plan as of now. He'll be there at least for part of the day. I don't know what the exact plan is, but do you put any significance into that at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people, a lot of grumbling when the summer visit list came out. Ole Miss wasn't on it. And look, you can't read too much into that because he's been to Oxford, I would say, hundreds of times. He's been going to Oxford his entire life.
Well, he basically spent last summer in Oxford during the pandemic, so yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he knows what he's getting in the campus, in the town. I think this trip is going to be more of meeting Lane Kiffin, meeting Jeff Levy, talking about the offense. What's their plan for him? What are they presenting to him that is possibly different or more unique than what Texas is doing, what Clemson is doing, what Alabama is doing. And I definitely think that there's some stock to put into it because not only is he coming in town to meet them, but he's coming in town to be around other recruits that are going to be there. They're going to talk, hey, I know that you've still got, 2 more years of high school, but, what do you think about Ole Miss? I mean, I would venture to say that every recruit that's going to be in town knows who Arch Manning is.
Sure.
So I think that that's huge to not only get him in town around other recruits that are thinking about going to Ole Miss, but it's huge because he's just going to get to meet the staff, get a feel for what they want to do with him in their offense, because this is kind of where you are if you're Ole Miss. You have to be able to separate and differentiate yourself from the Alabamas, from the Clemsons, from the Texases, because I think that's if you maybe pick a top 4, that's probably it right there.
All right, we'll stop there. I don't know exactly what the schedule is for next week because I'm going to be in Birmingham for SEC Media Days for most of the week. And I don't know what Zach's plans are either, whether Zach and Chase will get together, whether we'll just reconvene in a couple of weeks. Because in a couple of weeks, it'll be the eve of the cookout. And, in fact, that might be the best plan of action. Anyway, thanks to everybody for being in the stream. Thanks for making this podcast a part of your day and a part of your week. We certainly appreciate it. And also don't forget about the College Corner, 2 locations in Jackson, collegecornerstore.com. Huge selection of college gear, Ole Miss gear, as you start getting ready for the 2021 football season. For Zach, I'm Neal. Until next time, take care.